Welcome to the Bulgarian Troglodyte. My name is SJS, and today I'm gonna talk about some letterbox lists where you can find lots of underrated and unknown films. So Letterboxd has been absolutely crucial for my cinema journey. I think I wouldn't be the same cinephile or even the same person I am today if I never started using Letterboxd. As many of the underrated films that I have talked about on my channel, I discovered through Letterboxd through many of these types of lists that I'm gonna show you today. So I would highly recommend using Letterboxd if you don't use it already. Of course, it can be hard to find the right people to follow on Letterboxd, but if you give it time, you can find lots of great people on Letterboxd who um log films that you might find interesting. Yeah, and I think one good tactic to find good people on Letterboxd is that maybe you have some particular favorite films, and then when you go read the reviews for those favorite films of yours, you can check that which reviews are the best, and then you see the user who wrote those reviews, and then maybe follow those people. I think that's something that I have done, for example. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into these lists now. We have four lists here, although one of them is actually my own list, but three of them are lists that I have liked a lot myself. But this first list is Kinodasein's 200 greatest films of all time. This is a list I've been aware of for I think 4 or 5 years now, and it's been a great help for me. So I have seen 168 films from this list of 200 films, so I still have some to watch myself. As you can immediately see here, this includes lots of world cinema um, from directors like Kim Ki-young, Shuji Terayama, Zulawski, Miklos Janso, Wojciech Haas. And I would say all of those directors are a bit underrated. I mean, they all have like a niche fan base, and there are many people, or not maybe many people, but some people who really rate these directors very highly, but they don't have nowhere near the same size of a fan base as the big world cinema directors have, even though I would argue that many of these bit lesser known directors are often as good as the giants of cinema and sometimes even better. And by the way, one more disclaimer is that again these lists aren't only underrated films like you can see here it has Apocalypse Now, but all of these lists have lots of underrated films, but they aren't exclusively underrated or unknown films. Yeah. Well, let's get through this list quickly. So we have like Sergei Parajonov. This is a film that you should watch. Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. I discovered this film through this list. It's Masahiro Shinoda's Himiko, which can be found on the Criterion channel to watch. It's a beautiful non-narrative film. This film I often talk about on my channel, City of Pirates, one of my top 50 films of all time, another non-narrative film. Usually it's on YouTube for free for you to watch if you're interested. Then we have some Glauber Rocca, great movie. This is one that you often find on these kind of niche lists. Fall of Otrar, which is a great epic film, really hard to find. And when you find it, it's gonna be in bad quality, but it's a wonderful film. India song, I mean, it's kind of started getting more recognition. It was even in the Sight and Sound list, but this is one that I would recommend to everybody. Yeah. And we have more Terayama here, Pastoral to Die in the Country, Grass Labyrinth, all great movies. Demons by Matsumoto, same guy who directed Funeral Parade of Roses, well worth checking out. This was released by Radiance, although I had seen it way earlier than that, so it's Obi Oba, End of Civilization. This is a one Imamura film that not many people talk about, Profound Desires of the Gods. I think it's one of his best and such a visually striking film. And this film is something I really want to see, but I haven't seen yet. Wanderers of the Desert, probably gonna be really good. Then we have some Bergman here and Angelopoulos, Kiarostami, Rome. So this section actually has lots of really famous films, but then at the same time, bit lesser known ones like again Glauber Roccas, Antonio das Mortes. I have this one ready to go, but I haven't watched it yet. Um, yeah, and many of these lists have Love Diaz, who is a slow cinema giant. So people who are big fans of slow cinema are usually big fans of Love Diaz, but he's kind of a blind spot for me, so I need to watch more of his films. I have only seen one, Norte, but his films tend to be very long, so that's kind of the reason why I haven't watched many of them yet. And of course, Peter Greenaway, I always or often talk about him. He's one of my favorites, but I think he's a bit underrated. I think he's one of the absolute best British directors, and he doesn't get quite the amount of hype that he deserves. And this film is quite underrated. It's Romero's Four Adventures of Rhinette and Mirabelle. I think it might actually be my favorite of his. And I'm a big Romero fanboy. He's top three director for me. And this is a Louis Malle film that everybody should watch. The Fire Within. I actually believe that it's his best film. Yeah, Petro Costa you will often also find on this list, and Colossal Youth is a masterpiece. And here we have lots of pretty big films. So like I said, it's not all underrated, but there are lots of underrated films here. This one I really want to see, Seduced and Abandoned. Platform is a very interesting Shanke film. Then we have some Kurahara here. Need to get into his work more. This is one of the best documentaries of all time, TXQ West of the Tracks, although it's like 10 hours long, so not very accessible. Yeah, so yeah, the second page had quite lots of more well-known films, but this one I would highly recommend. Japanese Girls at the Harbor, by the way. But if you kind of do a deep dive to this list, you can see that there are many films that are very much lesser known stuff and very interesting stuff. And I think there's not a single film on this list that I dislike, even though I've seen uh, most of them. Yeah. This film is, by the way, really good. Dead Man's Letters, and it's usually on YouTube as well, so I would highly recommend that. But this one I've actually done a dedicated video on, but it's the Harvard Film PhD program list, which again I'm almost completed it. 50 films to go. But this is also a list that has lots of familiar classics, but it also, if you again do a deep dive to this list, you can find lots of bit lesser known films like this in like chronological order, so it starts with silent films. But this one is, by the way, one of the best silent films, but not many people talk about it. By the Law. It's very kind of surreal, weird film, even kind of horrific in a way. But it's a masterpiece in my opinion. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, Alexander Nevsky might actually be my favorite Eisenstein film. It's such an epic film. Um, yeah, so some really famous films in this section, but then it has these kind of some more kind of unsung masterpieces like this one. Mother Joan of the Angels, a great Polish film. Yeah, this one was very interesting. Barren Lives, and nobody talks about it. Then we have a Stroop and Huli film that I haven't seen yet, not reconciled. They are kind of the darlings of kind of certain niche of the cinephile community. Those like very like the philosophy-minded people, I think, tend to like Stroop and Huli. Report on the Party and the Guests. This one I'm really looking forward to watching. And then we have some Glauber Rock on this list as well, Entranced Earth, which is really good. And this is a film that I've never been able to find anywhere. I would have watched it if I had found it. So if you know where to watch this, where I can watch this, let me know. But it's Blood of the Condor. Seems to be a very unknown film and really hard to track down. Then we have like Sembene, who's fairly underrated, although I think recently he's kind of been discovered by many people. The Wind, I really want to see. Carmen, I really want to see. So you can see this is kind of the 80s section, and there are many films here that you don't see in 80s lists, like again, Saturated Race, The Home and the World, you don't usually see in 80s lists. Yeah. Yeelen is a very good film. And yeah. So you can see that it's a mix of big classics and then it more underrated ones. And of course the concept of like what is underrated and unknown, it really again depends who you ask. Because to like a very casual film goer, underrated might mean something again completely different than it does for a cinephile like me. So yeah, it's always good to remember that. This is a pretty underrated Godard film, Eloge de l'amour. Not many people talk about it, but it's very interesting. But yeah, I would highly recommend this Harvard PhD list. Yeah. But this one is the one that has the most underrated films. So it's by this Letterboxd user Chris. I follow his um, page here on Letterboxd. He follows mine, but I've never interacted with this person, so I have no clue who it is or anything. But I've just um, gone through this list many times on Letterboxd, and I've really enjoyed going through it as it has so much stuff that I had never heard of. And this is also a very good sign always when somebody says that their all-time favorite is Fassbinder's Berlin Alexanderplatz, which I consider to be one of the greatest films of all time. But yeah, like you can see, it's 13 Harvard films, and there is so many unknown films here. Like you can see that again. I've only seen 25% of these, even though again I've gone through most of the kind of world cinema canon and stuff. So that kind of tells you immediately that it's full of really underrated stuff. Although again, like the other list, this also has some bigger classics like The Maltese Falcon and to Be or Not to Be, for example. So it's not all underrated stuff or unknown stuff, but much of this list is. There is a nice mix of different countries and different types of films. This has been one that I really want to see. Avara. This is, by the way, a very interesting Finnish film that you can get on Eureka Masters of Cinema Blu-ray, The White Reindeer. It's a really nice Blu-ray and really interesting film. Yeah. This was one that Ronin mentioned as an underrated film in the podcast that we did, Usheba or Crispy. Always struggle with pronouncing that name. This is one of Misoguchi's best, The Crucified Lovers. Yeah. There are like this film, like I have, for example, no idea what what a film like this is. Even I've never heard of this, although maybe I've seen it in this list. But this is a Wojciech Haas film, The News. I've really wanted to watch that one, but haven't yet. End of Desire. Don't really know what this is. So this is like a really big gold mine for underrated films. Street of Love and Hope, that one I have seen. Um, this one I believe Ronin has also talked about Sambo. Yeah, very interesting list. It's really interesting to see like people who have this kind of very unique taste in cinema and who constantly watch these very unknown films. I think it's very admirable. Very interesting. Again, like I'm constantly seeing films that I don't know. Um, this one I actually watched earlier this year. Love at Sea by Guy Gilles. Wonderful film. So I would highly recommend that one. This one came out on is coming out on Criterion and also came out on Radiance. Black God and White Devil, also by Glober Rocca. This is one of Godard's best, The Married Woman. We have some Kurohara. Peter Watkins is great director. Highly recommend that film. Then we have Parajonov and Strobe and Huli again, and this is the only Wojciech Haas film that I've seen so far, unfortunately, but it's a masterpiece. One of the best of all time. This is the Mishima film, Patriotism. This one I've wanted to watch for a long time, but I haven't yet. A Man and a Woman by Claude Lelouch, I think. Coach to Vienna is great. Silence Has No Wings is one of the best Japanese films, but not many people talk about it. By Kazuo Kuroki. Yeah, happy to see La Religieuse here. The Red and the White is a very interesting war film by Miklos Jankso. And I think people who watch it really love it, but not enough people have watched it. I'm not sure what this film is or this film, so I think this is the one that Ronin talked about recently. Happy End. Valley of the Beast is a masterpiece. The Boy and the Wind is really high on my watch list. Yeah, yeah. This is also one that I would recommend as an underrated film. It's definitely an absolutely incredible, very poetic, beautiful film. Can be found on YouTube. This one is something that one of my viewers has recommended. It's The Commissar. I haven't watched it yet, but I really want to. Okay, one of my viewers said that it's like one of the best things ever. So, and the viewer that I'm talking about has like a really good taste in cinema, a fairly similar taste as in cinema as me. So shout out to him. Greetings to Germany. Yeah, and this one I have wanted to see La Prisonnière. Yeah, yeah, there are so many films like here that I don't even recognize. So it's very again interesting. So this list is probably the biggest gold mine for underrated stuff that you can find. And again, you should do like proper deep dives to these lists, like on your own. Obviously, I can't go through all of these films; it would take forever. Earthlight, dying to see this one. This one I'm also very interested. The Strangle, Paul Vecchiali film. I watched the Paul Vecchiali film recently, which was really good. So yeah, this is another Gills film that I want to see. Repeated absences. This I've heard great things about. Ludwig, Requiem for a Virgin King. Yeah, this one is high on my watch list. Morgiana. This is an underrated film that I would recommend. The Other Side of the Underneath. Cabaret is actually a big blind spot of mine. I've been recently thinking that I should watch it. Petrified Forest is a Masahiro Shinoda film that I really want to watch. Belladonna of Sadness is also something that I haven't seen, but I want to see. This one I've recommended in other underrated videos. So it's Duvita by Mani Kaul. Great movie. Sweet movie is pretty intense. The Night Porter is actually a classic that I haven't seen. Should watch it sometime. Conversation piece I have on my backlog. Yeah. Lots of Fassbinder here, which I like to see. Yeah. Mikey and Nikki I watched recently. It's actually kind of exceeded my expectations. Like really great exploration of masculinity. It was weirdly funny as well when you kind of get into the rhythm of the film. This I've wanted to see Agha, Agra, Hara, Rathil, Kashutai, probably butchered that. I've heard great things about this one. Our Hitler, yeah. Although you don't usually hear great things about Hitler, but I've heard great things about that film, yeah. Manuel de Oliveira, Doomed Love is a film that I really want to see. Oh, it even has a Year of the Hare that I talked about recently. Yeah, it's so rare for me to see so many films that I don't know anything about. Like this one is one of my favorite first time watches of the year so far. Three Crowns of the Sailor by Raul Ruiz, who made also City of Pirates that I mentioned. Like absolutely stunning film and completely unique and again really weird, but such a great movie. It really pains me that Raul Ruiz isn't more well known as he is like one of the greats, but nobody talks about him. This is a very interesting Zulawski film. Not many people have seen it. It's La Femme Publique or The Public Woman. This one I've heard lots of great things about Utopia. This one I really want to see. Glass Relations is another Stroop and Huli film. Threats is a very interesting film. Yeah, this one I've talked about his girl or his motorbiker island. Yeah, his girl. I don't know where that came from. Beekeeper is a great Angelopoulos film starring Marcello Mastroianni. Um, yeah, so many films here. Few more pages to go, and yeah, then we are close to the end of the video. I'll just briefly show my own list after this because I think again my favorite films of all time list has quite lots of underrated films. It has many big classics that aren't underrated, but a decent chunk of the films are underrated too. Yeah, Antigone is one Stroop and Huli film that I have seen, which is really good. I really need to do a deep dive onto their work, but it's not very well accessible often, so that's the reason I haven't explored their work that much yet. Rebels of the Neon God is a great Chiming Liang film. I believe it was his first feature. Spider sounds really interesting. The Baby of Macon, very good. Peter Greenaway film again. Yeah, this one I have a digital copy of, but I haven't seen it yet. In the Heat of the Sun, apparently like a hidden gem, a hidden masterpiece that not many people know about. So very much looking forward to watching that. A Moment of Innocence, if you haven't seen it, you must watch it. It's a masterpiece. If you like Kiarostami's work, I think you would like this Mousen Makmalpaf film a lot. Mother and Son, I watched recently and was absolutely blown away. It was an instant favorite. Such a beautiful film. Yeah, what a film. What a film. Ja Sicily, I've also seen another Strobenhuli film. This one I've heard lots of great things about. Devil's on the Doorstep. This one might actually be my favorite Chantal Akerman film, The Captive. Not that many people talk about that one. I guess most people just watch Sean Dielman and they don't watch other films by Chantal Akerman, unfortunately. Two more pages. Yeah, so now we are in the 2000s. And if you love slow cinema, I think you would love Hard to Be a God. And this is the Love Diaz film that I mentioned earlier that I have seen, North Day, The End of History. The Act of Killing is one of the best documentaries ever. Yeah, Albert Serra is a director I've been meaning to get into, but I haven't yet. But he seems to be like a very divisive director that you either hate or love. We'll see which side I'm gonna take when I see his films. I think Pacific Fiction is another one from him, by the way. Yeah, both things I'm looking forward to watching. I haven't yet. But yeah, that was this list. Highly recommended. It has so much to offer. You could look at this list for hours probably. Yeah. But then again, there's my favorite films of all time list that you can find on my Letterboxd page. It has 366 films. Again, many of them are big classics, like you can see 8.5, 2001. But then it has these more lesser known ones, like here, Abraham's Valley. This is on the Rare Film website, I believe, if you want to watch it. Might be on YouTube as well. Um, yeah, Chichuko's younger sister is on YouTube with English subtitles. A very underrated film, a great movie. The Collector is very underrated. Confessions Among Actresses by one of my favorite directors, Kichu Yoshida, is very underrated. I think Celine by Jean-Claude Priester is little underrated as well. Well, I think even the Decameron is a bit underrated inside. Like Pasolini's filmography, people talk about some of his other films more. Coco Second Time Virgin is underrated and unknown. I think Hannah and Alice is a bit of that as well. Well, this one definitely is Happiness of Us Alone. The High Solitudes by Philip Garrel. Basically, just a collection of close-ups and nothing else, but one of the most beautiful films ever. I've Always Loved You. Not many people know, but one of the best classic Hollywood films ever. Talked about it recently. Hot Cat is Finnish new wave film. Amazing stuff. Little Malcolm and his struggle against the eunuchs. If you like Mike Lee's films, I think you'd like this one. And Parsifal is a great opera film. Okay, people who love classical music, opera, and stuff like that, you probably will love this film. I think Picnic is one that people don't really talk about, but I've mentioned it on my channel quite a few times. It's so good. L'Enfant Secret, yeah, maybe hardcore fans of French cinema really love this film, but not that many people talk about it, so I would highly recommend it. It's so beautiful. Sound of the Mountain was one of my favorite recent watches. Such a great Miki Naruse film. Then this one is a great, very poetic, very beautiful film, A Spring for the Thirsty, that actually nobody talks about, but it's a masterpiece. Then Antoinette Angelini films are very underrated but amazing. So here we have Thief for Reality, and we also have Topos by the same director. Yeah, she is really interesting director. Then we have Uskiroti by Mani Kaul. Could be on YouTube if you want to watch it. Great, very Presonian Indian film. Yeah, Open Coupe, one of the most beautiful French new wave films ever by Guy Gilles. It's on very good quality in the Rare Film website if you are interested. Yeah, so that was my list. I'll leave links down to these lists on the description if you are interested in checking them out. So I would recommend you to do so if you want to discover films, whether underrated, unknown, or even maybe classics that you haven't seen yet. But hopefully you found this video interesting. I might do a part 2 to this at some point. Thanks for watching. Don't drink Coke at all. Sayonara and arigato gozaimashita.